Hey, beautiful people of the internet, how are you guys doing today? Hopefully great, and welcome to Budget Builds, where we use zero Forma and achieve maximum efficiency. In today's video, we're going to be taking a closer look at Limbo Prime, aka the space mathematician of Warframe. Now, if you guys would like to buy some merch, head to the links down in the description, and of course, we'll be doing shoutouts to any of those who go and buy some merch. And also, don't forget to spot and click the subscribe button for more Warframe videos. Without further ado, let's get this build video on the road, shall we? So we're going to get right to the point on how Limbo works. So for this particular build video, we're going to be completely ignoring Banish and Rift Surge. We don't need them. However, this particular build is going to be focusing on two abilities, that being Stasis and Cataclysm. By you combining both of these abilities, you're basically going to have Frost but on steroids. So Cataclysm basically creates this giant bubble, and this giant bubble is purely scales off of the range and duration mod you guys have. So think of it as a giant bubble that just gets lower and lower and lower, or smaller and smaller in diameter. Of course, when the diameter does hit 0, then the Cataclysm will disappear. Combine Cataclysm with Stasis, all the enemies that are trapped within the Cataclysm will then be frozen in time. Like I said, Stasis and Cataclysm are both based off of the amount of duration mods you guys currently have on your build. Of course, Cataclysm also is based off of your range, because remember, it is a giant bubble. So a lot of people are going to disagree with the way I build Limbo, and that is perfectly fine. We all have our own opinions. However, Limbo is very powerful against Grineer and Infested. Against Corpus, well, let's just say the Corpus actually kicks him in the balls, because the Corpus have the nullifiers, and if you guys didn't know, nullifiers will be able to go and switch off all of your abilities regardless of what Warframe you are. So just keep that in mind. Don't use them against the Corpus. I highly disagree with them. A lot of people like to use a very low range build, which I don't see the point in. I actually think using very little range on, Limbo is absolutely a bad idea, just because he's very squishy. And as for his passive, basically his passive is your butter and bread or your saving grace. However, it's not enough. So what's going to happen is that if you guys roll when you're playing as Limbo, you're going to exit or enter the rift. So you roll once, you'll enter the rift. You roll again, you'll exit the rift. And for a very long time, Limbo has actually terrorized the Warframe community, because when you guys are in the rift, you won't be able to take any form of damage from the enemies, which is absolutely phenomenal, and you'll be able to go and revive your fallen tenor. However, here's where the bad parts do come in. You won't be able to pick up any resource, and if you guys do have a vacuum mod on your Sentinel, then it's going to be pretty annoying trying to play as Limbo. And if you guys didn't know, while you guys are in the passive, you'll be able to gain around 10 energy for every enemy that gets killed, and also while you guys are in this energy or the rift, you'll basically be able to get some energy back, which is actually pretty phenomenal. So here's the build for Limbo, and as you guys can see, I haven't added any Forma whatsoever, because it wouldn't be an episode budget build if there was Forma used here. Anyways, so this build is basically going to be utilized to go and control a whole area of enemies. In other words, if there's a ton of enemies in one particular area, so let's say you guys jump into Steel Path, and the game of Steel Path does love to flood the whole area with enemies, this particular build will allow you to control all the enemies and freeze them in the spot. That's assuming that they're within your Cataclysm and Stasis is currently activated, or Stasis. Now, when you guys are freeze the enemies in place, you'll then be able to freely go around and start poking the enemies to death. Now, as you guys saw from the previous gameplay, I would like to go and use the Distresser Prime, because remember, the Distresser Prime is easily one of the best melee weapons in the entire game, just because you can easily melt through enemy armor by applying a ton of slash procs, and also we've got Toxin there as well. Therefore, we can just melt through the enemy's armor like it is butter. Combine that with Condition Overload, well, let's just say you'll have an extremely devastating Blade of Fury. With that being said, let's go over the build. So what we have here is Corrosive Projection. If you guys don't want to use Corrosive Projection, you can take Corrosive Projection out and swap it for Energy Siphon. Because remember, you don't want to get caught with your pants down, and also you'll be able to go and spam your number 2 and your number 4 without worrying too much about taking the enemies out. Next, we've got ourselves Cunning Drift, Auger Reach, and Overextended along with Stretch for more range. Now, like I said previously, the more range you guys have on this build, the bigger your Cataclysm bubble itself will be. So in other words, you'll have a much larger radius. The bigger the radius, the bigger the area of effect will be. Next up, we have ourselves Narrow-Minded and Primed Continuity for more duration. The more duration we have, the longer our Cataclysm will last. And also, I also forgot to tell you guys that we do have Cunning Drift as well. Once again, more range, more radius. We've also got ourselves a Streamline for more efficiency, That way we don't get caught with our pants down. And combine that with Prime Flow for once again a much larger energy pool, because remember, you don't want to have any form of strain on your abilities, and by using Warframe or by using Limbo, you're going to be spamming your number 2 and your number 4. In other words, you'll be utilizing your Cataclysm and your Stasis a lot. So by you having less restriction on your energy pool will be a huge plus side. Now in the Arcanes department, you have a lot of utility here. So because we're going to be relying on our melee weapon a lot, because we're going to be freezing a huge area of enemies, we're going to be attacking them with a lot of melee attacks. So if you guys don't have Arcanes, it is not the end of the world. You don't need to have Arcanes. In fact, Arcanes are just there to, for fun. So if in the case you guys do have Arcanes, here's what I recommend you guys go with. So I'm running around with Arcane Fury and Arcane Strike. If you guys didn't know, Arcane Fury gives me more melee attack damage output every time I do a critical hit. And I'm using this Distressor Prime or any crit based melee weapon, I'll always have the 150% additional melee damage. Of course, I need to have the max rank one, therefore I can have 30% additional damage output. So there is that. And I'm also running around with Arcane Strike. If you guys didn't know, Arcane Strike just gives me additional attack speed every time I hit someone with my melee weapon, my sentient, or if an enemy gets hit in some way or form. Arcane Strike will get proc, giving me more attack speed. You guys didn't know, more attack speed equals more DPS. And if you guys would like to use something else other than Arcane Fury, I do recommend maybe going and slapping on an Arcane Energize, because remember, you don't want to get caught with your pants down. Even though with this particular build, you don't need to worry about not having enough energy, because thanks to Limbo's passive, you'll be able to go and replenish your energy. But once again, Arcane Energize if you want to guarantee your energy replenishment. And also, just for a bit of survivability, you can go and slap on an Arcane Guardian. Even though an Arcane Guardian won't make a humongous difference, because at the end of the day, the enemies will climb so high in damage output that they'll just shred through your armor like it is butter. So that's a build. If you guys would like to build to your own consent, do that, because remember, these builds that I do provide you guys with is only for a reference. I'm here to guide you guys, build to your heart's content. So when it comes to using Limbo in the steel path, one important aspect is the type of school tree that you guys decide to go and use. So most people would like to go with generic, that way they can continuously go and refresh their energy, which is fine, there's nothing wrong with that. But the one problem if you're going to be using Limbo is that he is very, very, very squishy. Even if you got Arcane Guardian adaptation, he still has his limits. So that's why I like to roll with Vazarin, that way I can continuously heal myself and always survive. If you guys would like to know what particular node I'm using, so just click on Vazarin and here's the node called Protective Dash. And basically, allies, including yourself, that are hit by Void Dash are granted a 5% or are granted immunity from damage for 5 seconds and are healed 60% over 5 seconds. Now you can go and spam Protective Dash, there's no cooldown to it. You can just spam 30, 40, 50 million times, doesn't matter. The whole point is you'll always have that protection on you at all times. So that's what makes Protective Dash absolutely amazing and Vazarin, especially if you have another way of going to get yourself some energy. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all for today's video. If you guys have liked the video or it's helped you in any way or form, remember to leave a like and don't forget to Spartan click the subscribe button for more Warframe videos and streams, along with some Forza Horizon 5. I'm gonna make like a banana and split.